Ethical Perspectives on the News is produced by the Interreligious Council of Linn County, which is solely responsible for its content. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KCRG TV9.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on Ethical Perspectives of the News. I'm Beth Parker, and tonight we'll have a little food talk. We forget how intimately we are connected to the environment, and that's an understatement. We know that we are what we eat, and what we eat comes through the environment. How we take care of the environment comes back to us. So let's meet our panelists. Hello, Carol, Peter, and Carolyn. How are you?
Good.
Let's start with a short backstory. Carol, we might as well start with you. I consider you the mama bear of veganism, a veteran of vegetarianism, and a retired clinical dietitian. You're a founder and president of the Vegan Community of Iowa. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts about human disease, animal relief, the spiritual practice that you speak of? And
I'll start out on the health aspects of it. So I was I've been a cardiac dietitian for most of my career. I retired a couple of years ago, but primarily I've been working with heart patients. And so out of frustration of patients not seeing changes when they were observing the standard American of the Heart Association diet, because they kept coming back with the same problems, and so they wanted to know what else they could do. So I read, it was a new book. It was Dr. Dean Ornish's program for reversing heart disease. It came out in 1993, and it was a lifestyle modification program. And after reading the book, I said, this is what we need to be doing about heart disease. We need to go back to the source of the problem. And the problem is what people are eating, lack of exercise, not being able to manage their stress, and not having social support. So Dr. Rolnick's program focused on all of those aspects. And as far as the diet was concerned, it was a vegetarian low-fat diet at the time, but it was near vegan. The patients were allowed egg whites, and they were allowed one serving of skim milk per day, and that's all they had. So the whole idea was to see what would happen to their arteries if they stopped eating animal products and ate instead plants. So we saw some really remarkable things happen. In about 3 weeks period of time, people who had near constant angina, their angina was resolving 3 weeks after starting this program. We saw people who were taking insulin decrease their dose by 50%, and most of that was type 1 diabetes. People who had type 2 diabetes, they often got off their medications completely. So there were really remarkable changes that occurred in a very short period of time when people would make these lifestyle changes. So that research went on for 5 years. And then after the research project was done, and it showed reversal of heart disease through lifestyle modifications. That was the whole point of his research. Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines, which is where I was working at the time, decided to continue the program as more of an outpatient. They didn't have to be referred by their physicians, so almost anybody could come into the program. So I continued with that, and it was so remarkable that I wanted to continue working with patients, helping them to reverse their diseases. So it's not only heart disease, but diabetes, gastrointestinal diseases,
the major killers.
Prevention of cancer. So the diet is a really important factor in decreasing the risk for diseases.
Quickly about the spiritual practice that you speak of, just real quick.
Okay. Well, I need to just very briefly mention the fact that after I was very well seated in the nutrition part of it, I started exploring some other things as far as animal welfare, the way that animals are treated in our culture. I grew up in an Iowa farm. I was married to a farmer for 13 years, so I've been on that side of it. But the way that we have chosen, the animal agriculture has chosen to modify the way animals are treated in animal agriculture is, I think it is unethical and immoral to treat animals the way that we do in these CAFOs. And they're actually pretty much animal concentration camps. So then when you become aware of the animal part of it, the animal abuse part of it, then you start exploring the environmental issues, and you find out how important, how significant animal agriculture is in promoting the CO2 issues and degradation of the environment. So they're all intertwined.
Yeah.
So the spiritual part, since that's really what you asked that. So the spiritual part of that is to know that you're making a choice for wanting to be as healthy as you possibly can so that you can live a life of service to other people. You're not abusing animals. You're not partaking in this animal abuse and these CAFOs and so forth. You're not part of that industry.
CAFOs.
Concentrated animal feeding operations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a very peaceful way to live, and to know that you are not harming the environment, or you're lightening, you're diminishing your impact as much as you possibly can.
Okay, we may come back, and Carolyn, let me ask you a couple of questions. And I was, like last night, we were talking about this, and I said maybe we should have some snacks. Carolyn brings it, so I want to hurry up and get through here so we can eat. No, Carolyn, you are a vegan community of Eastern Iowa board member, and you do a lot of demonstrations and presenting, and a creative cooking enthusiast. You're always looking for new ideas, and you've converted your family. It sounds like you started out in a farm too.
I did. I started out, my dad farmed. He used to squirt milk into my mouth from the cow, and he always said milk is healthy and you just do what your parents tell you.
You do.
And you just follow it and assume it's correct. And it was always sad for me because I'm like Carol, I raised baby calves to see them be taken away to the market. Baby Sloppy, my pig, had to leave. Freckles, my calf, or my goat, my sheep. And you know, it's a sad thing to see. You don't understand and you're sad, but you think it's right that you have to eat meat.
Yeah.
And you don't question that when you're a child. It was wonderful to find out you don't have to, and that you don't have to hurt the animals. So,
one thing I heard you mention was that you kind of did this cold turkey.
oh yeah, actually my husband started reading China Study and talking about it. And then I started reading about it, about the health. As we were getting older, we were concerned about our health mostly, and we just wanted to eat healthy. And the animal thing didn't start there, but from reading the book, we could see that we would benefit from not eating meat and doing things that would cause clogging of their arteries and strokes and diabetes like my father had. And
was it hard to pull your family in? Was it hard, or
No.
maybe your husband started, but
my daughter actually was mostly vegan at the time, and my other daughter was about vegetarian. My husband was all on board, so it was just like I was the one.
Oh.
And I said, well, I might try this. And so
look at you now, right?
yes, I tried it for about 3 months, and then I took a laundry basket to my pantry and started pulling stuff out, anything on the back of the box that had milk or dairy, and it all went, and I haven't turned back, and that's been...
We're going to be talking about some ways to help people make that transition if they are interested in doing that. Peter, let's talk a little to you, about you. You are a retired college physics teacher and currently the Iowa State coordinator for the Citizens Climate Lobby. You want to say what your interest is in veganism?
Well, about 6.5 years ago, my wife and I read some of the same books, the one by Esselstyn about heart disease and eating his father, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
This is Rips.
And she first suggested that we try this, and I was skeptical, but after a while I tried it. We both were taking cholesterol-lowering medication, statin drugs. We both were having problems with those. They cause pain in your muscles. I was taking a blood pressure medication, and after that, we both, well, she lowered her statin a lot. I don't have to take a statin at all, and my blood pressure medication is much lower. So it certainly had immediate benefits for both of us. And then I got involved in climate advocacy. Iowa City Climate Advocates is the Iowa City chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby, which is a worldwide organization trying to get a price on carbon. And so that I have to say that organization does not endorse or is not for or against anything except putting a revenue neutral price on carbon. So Citizens Climate Lobby doesn't say you should be vegan.
Yeah. So you're representing yourself this evening and not advocating for CCL?
But in my connection with CCL, I've been paying a lot of attention to all the different factors that contribute to the problem of climate change. And so since you talked to me about this, I've been learning about the ways in which meat production and dairy affects the climate. And
Okay.
I found it's all very interesting.
Very interesting. So much information, so little time. I want to just read a few phrases that I discovered in my research. Since 1950, American meat and fish consumption has increased from 150 to 220 pounds per person per year. Within the last 40 years, America has 95% fewer egg producers, 91% fewer pig producers, and 88% fewer dairies, while total animal production has increased from 1.5 billion in 1960 to 9 billion in around 2016. So the family farm is no more. It's about concentrated mega production like the CAFOs you were talking about. I thought this was interesting as well. This is from 2016. Chickens now go to market just under 7 weeks, down from 12 weeks 70 years ago, reaching market weight in half the time once needed, at 4 times the market weight. So according to the research from University of Arkansas, if humans grew as fast and as large as chickens, a 6.6 pound baby would weigh 660 pounds after 2 months. That was graphic. I could understand that. Recently, in preparation for this production, this show, I surveyed some random people about vegetarianism, about what their interests might be. And there were several objections, but they can be categorized in a few specific areas. So let me share that information, and I'm going to ask you to respond. If this were an objection, how would you address it? Maybe you would support it, maybe you would disagree, maybe you just have some information. And we talked a little about this before. It's too hard, I don't know what to do, I can't understand the recipe ingredients, and I can't find them. Anybody want to?
I'll just start off by saying that most of what people eat are vegan, they're plant-based foods. So if people who are eating vegetables and fruits and whole grains and legumes and nuts and seeds, those types of things are all already vegan. So you can start with where you are in your diet with those types of foods, and then you can expand on them. We have substitutes, obviously, for cow's milk now. There are many different choices as far as milk is concerned, milk substitutes. And there are many, many more meat substitutes. So even if a person still wants to include the taste of meat in their diet, they can do that without harming decreasing the impact on the environment, and certainly not harming the animals. The other thing I want to mention very quickly too is that most people think that they have to eat meat and dairy for protein. Protein is in all foods. So if you're eating a varied diet, including lots of different things in your diet, you're going to get adequate protein. We do not need to eat animal products.
That was a significant objection that I found. Carolyn, were you going to say something?
When I started out, I really didn't think I was going to stick with it. I thought it would be too hard. But it was sort of, well, I'll just try it, and if we do it part-time, and I found it so easy. I really got into it. You can look on the internet. It's very easy to Google. You want to do something vegan, it's like vegan chickpea sandwich, which I made, or you can Google whatever you're making, vegan mac and cheese, or vegan desserts, or vegan casseroles. If you've got mushrooms and you want to cook something with certain ingredients, you can just Google it, or you can get really easy cookbooks that are like just a few ingredients. And those are easy to come by on the internet or bookstores or anything. And for me, it was a challenge, and it was fun and tasty and easy.
Peter, what were you going to say?
A thing that we figured out is if you try to recreate what you used to eat, like for me it was things like pork chops. The first thing was the meat. So maybe it would be pork chops. And then you'd put some potatoes on the side and, I don't know, a salad. If you try to recreate that in a vegan way, I find that not a useful way to approach it. There's a lot of great vegan food that's not particularly fancy, that's really good. It's not the same as a pork chop, but so for example, if you like the smell of a chicken roasting in the oven, we discovered, first when we stopped buying canned beans and cooked our own beans every day, if you put some pinto beans in a crock pot in the morning, by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning, your house smells great. There's all these great aspects of vegetable food that I just didn't realize when it was all about meat.
It's getting organized in the mindset, because a lot of people think about the inconvenience, or they think that this is inconvenient.
I did not find it inconvenient. I felt it was tasty, it was good, I knew I was doing something good for myself, and that was very important.
Several of the people that I asked said, you know, my family will never go for it. And many, many people said, you can't get enough protein in your diet without eating meat. That's, a lot of people said that. I love the flavor, and it's too hard to change. So, were you going to add something?
Oh, well, I was, as far as making the transition, when I became vegetarian and slash near vegan in 1994, on January 1st of 1994, as I prepared for working with the Ornish program, when you take the meat out of the equation, when you don't put meat on your plate, it's like, okay, I have to come up with something else. And what I found was it just opened a whole new world of cooking. So you're not falling back
almost
on
a shift, right?
on
Paradigm.
the pork chop or the chicken or the slice of roast beef or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm going to be doing something else, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. All of these different foods that I have not been using, not been eating, because I was relying on the pork chop or the beef or the chicken.
One thing, though, I'll say to people who say it's difficult, I wouldn't want to just dismiss their concern. I know that when Caldwell Esselstyn did his study, which I think he had about 20 people who he put on this kind of a diet and ended up reversing heart disease, they actually had, I mean, how many doctors do you know who do this? They actually had the members of the study over at their house once a month to help them learn about this way. And so it is, if you're used to eating a certain way, it's a change. And it's a doable change, but it's true that getting help, having some kind of support group that helps you learn about ways to do that would certainly be helpful, which I guess you guys
and
do.
actually we do that with the vegan community of Eastern Iowa. We have monthly they're called plant lucks.
Yes, I know.
And so we have this incredible banquet of all of this wonderful vegan food, and we'll have anywhere between 25 and 50 people come for these plant lucks. So there's a wide variety of foods, and people bring their recipes. I always look forward to see what Carolyn's going to bring.
I bet you, we all do. Well, so how do people get involved if they want to? I mean, can they just come, or I mean, do they have to bring money, or what?
There's a meetup.com website for the vegan community of Eastern Iowa. There's also a Facebook page. So for the plant lucks, you don't have to have reservations. You can just come. There are instructions on those websites as far as what to bring. So you don't have to bring money. You just bring something that's a plant-based food to share with everyone else.
Do you have any?
Well, that's just wonderful, because you get to taste all these new different dishes, and like, I love that. What's, can I have that recipe? And then you just add to your list of great tastes. And when you're not eating all the fat and the salt and things that you're used to when you're eating meat, and you start really, it takes a while for your taste buds to adjust to tasting all the subtle flavors of the vegetables and the nutrients in there. And so,
but well worth the effort, right?
Yes.
And once in a while, some of the most unlikely things show up. Cottage cheese is one of the things that a lot of people love, and they don't make vegan cottage cheese, but you can make it with tofu, and it is more delicious than.
And you can't tell the difference.
You cannot tell the difference. It's absolutely delicious.
My daughter has a
so
great
there's some
recipe.
surprises.
Yeah.
So here's another objection. It's a way of life for meat producers. The industry will be destroyed. Any comments about that?
I think that the meat industry, I would like to see it change. Though I'm happy not eating any meat or any dairy, and that's what we plan to do. What I've learned is that a lot of the problems with the environment from meat and dairy is largely from how we do it, not that we do it. It definitely, in order to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius rise in temperature from pre-industrial times, we have to change our meat and dairy eating. That's scientists are very clear about that. There's a number of studies. Are they saying no meat? No, they're not saying that. They're saying cut it, 50%, 75% less. But it's complicated because there are most of the ways we produce, say, beef are on these big beef lots, and we feed them corn that we grow in these big monoculture fields. And that is what, all of that together, and the cutting down of forests to make more places to graze cattle or to grow corn, that is the stuff that is destroying the climate. And there are ways, for example, to use grazing animals where you move them around the farm, which actually can make the soil become something that'll pull carbon in instead of lose carbon. So you can actually use animals as a positive thing to help address climate change if you do it a certain way. But it's not going to feed the rate of hamburger production that we have now. It's not going to be that.
So how do people find out more about CCL and the interaction of nutrition? Are your meetings are open? And
Citizens Climate Lobby has chapters. There's 8 chapters all over Iowa.
Okay.
And if you just go to citizensclimatelobby.org, and if you enter your name there, they can connect you with the chapter nearest you.
Okay.
Can I make a comment about
Yeah.
how are farmers going to make a living? What really needs to happen is that farmers need to transition to be growing food for humans, not for animals, because most of the food that is grown, soybeans and corn, goes for feeding animals. We could feed the entire population of the world plus 2 million more people if we were using plants instead of animals. It's a very inefficient conversion ratio when you have to have 12 pounds of grain or corn or whatever to make 1 pound of meat, when you could have the 12 pounds or 15 pounds of grain or corn to feed the people to get the nutrition that way.
That makes a lot of sense. This is maybe a little off the subject, but interesting anyway. I was talking to a cricket farmer recently, and she told me that it takes between 2,500 and 3,000 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef protein. 2,500 to 3,000 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef protein. But it takes 1 to 2 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of cricket protein. Crickets, anybody?
I'll pass.
Me too.
I've got another one. Well, so here's some food for thought. I'm sorry I'm so corny, but I want to talk about some of the technical aspects of nutrition. Technology is not going away, but I have a quiz for you before we go that way, if we have a chance to carry on the discussion. So who said this? We shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or wing by growing these parts separately under a suitable medium. Synthetic food will, from the outset, be practically indistinguishable from natural products. Should I read it again, or?
You're asking us
Who
said it?
Any idea?
No.
No.
Terry? Anyone? Was Winston Churchill
Oh.
in 1931. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's like, yeah, that's what I thought too. So as we talk about this nutrition technology conversion, there's some things that I'd like for you just to comment about. Ethan Brown. Do you know who that is? Yes, you do. He said, I want to beat meat in every way: taste, price, nutritional content. Look at Tesla. Its automobile design addresses environmental problems. It's cool and it's elegant, even apart from its environmental benefits. He's the Beyond Burger guy. Who's have you eaten? Everyone's
Yes.
eaten Beyond Burger. What do you
I
think?
haven't tried it.
Yes.
What are the?
They're good.
Yes.
Well, well, there are a couple of things I'll say. If a person wants to bite into a hamburger, but they don't want to have it come from a cow, if they want to have that taste, the Beyond Burger works for them. But it has 20 grams of fat, most of which is saturated fat. It's coconut oil, so it's not a healthy food item in that regard. The other thing I want to say is that when people stop eating animal products, they lose the taste for them.
Yes.
And so that they enjoy all of these wonderful flavors, and they don't miss it. They don't want to substitute for meat. They want to have
Takes a while to
real food.
adjust, maybe.
It can, well, it depends.
Not for you,
I've had
cold
cardiac patients stop eating meat overnight. You know, when you've had bypass surgery or balloon angioplasty, you're pretty motivated to make some dietary changes.
Yeah.
And so I've seen people do it overnight.
And so, you know, to your earlier point, I'm just wondering if that means, this may be a little extreme, but am I hearing that meat as we know it may go the way of the horse and buggy before cars? It does seem like there's a transition.
as people, a lot of people are making that transition to a vegan, totally plant-based diet. It's a trend that is not going to change. We are going in that direction.
I believe.
Partly because we have to, if we're going to have a planet to enjoy, and our children and grandchildren are going to be able to enjoy it. It has to happen. And the faster that it happens, the better it's going to be for everyone.
Yeah, and the industry is sensitive to that, and so are investors. For example, Kellogg owns Garden Burger, Chipotle, did I say that right? Chipotle, White Castle, and Burger King offer veggie burgers in some locations. In June of 2015, 7-Eleven swapped out egg-based mayonnaise for non-egg-based in their prepared sandwiches. And a European study suggested in 2016 that lab-grown meat might reduce land and water use by 99 and 94%, respectively. And there are people buying in. In May of 2012, after sampling and comparing conventional and conventional versus eggless cookies, here's what two famous people said respectively. One, I can't tell the difference, and this will be big in Europe. Any idea who those people might be? So it was Bill Gates and Tony Blair.
Oh.
So I wonder what's going on in Warren Buffett's kitchen, you know? I mean, there are people who are going down that road. So we just have a couple of minutes left. So I'd like for you to talk about events coming up, the Veggie Fest and any of those things, and then maybe we can spend our last couple of minutes having you talk about some of these and some of this information, because we don't have much time, but go ahead, Carol.
The first annual
2 minutes we got.
Veg Fest was held on September 29th of 2018 last year, and it was such a success. We had over 700 people come for that event. So the committee got together right away afterwards, and we have one planned for November 9th this year. It's going to be at the Kirkwood Education Center in Coralville. It's going to be bigger than the one before. We bring speakers in from other parts of the country that are authorities in various aspects of veganism.
So it'll be one day?
Yes.
And is there a fee?
It'll be a $5 admission fee.
$5?
Yeah. So we'll have a marketplace, and we'll have speakers.
So and you'll be announcing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
VegFestEasternIowa.com, and they'll find our website.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about some of these delicious, easy things? Just, I think we have about 1 minute.
Well, so, people think it's difficult.
1 minute we've got.
And it's not. Like here we have a baked potato topped with some chili beans and some fresh broccoli with a little nutritional cheese on it. It's fast and easy. You bake the potato and you've got an instant meal. This is just scrambled tofu. These are little peanut butter balls, Mounds balls with coconut and oatmeal and chocolate chips. These are sandwiches, tuna salad sandwiches made with chickpeas and veganaise and pickle relish. A fast-to-go meal, breakfast. You take a burrito shell and put peanut butter, jam, and roll a banana up in it, and you've got a breakfast to go.
And then you were talking about, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nope, that's
You were
fine.
talking about a make overnight, what was that?
Oh,
cereal?
I've got overnight breakfast. You just put chia seeds and oatmeal and soy milk and fruit in there, and take it to work and eat it at your desk.
We're all done, and I'm ready to eat. Thank you very much.